Sometimes things don't make sense in the moment. Deriving decisions based on logic is usually the right way to go about living your life. Take Ayane for example, who makes every decision based on the data he acquires. But there are things that supersede logic, like a gut instinct. There's no rhyme or reason, it doesn't necessarily make the most sense, but by overriding logic with this instinct, you can arrive at a conclusion that no statistic can predict. And such was the case with Horikita's decision in the Unanimous Voting Arc. The Unanimous Voting Arc is undisputedly my favorite arc in Classroom of the Elite. You have a situation that's exceedingly realistic. Voting for a consensus. A consensus is a vote where everyone has to agree in order for something to be passed. This is done in many areas of politics, and it's meant to represent equality of action. Of course, this is far from the reality. Everyone has their external reasons for voting. Whatever it is, majority rules. Majority is unified. And within this unification, something gets set in stone. The special exam comprising the Unanimous Voting Arc was pretty simple. 5 questions have to be agreed upon by consensus, and once they are, they will turn into reality. If you answer all 5 questions, you gain 50 class points. All votes casted will be anonymous, each question becoming increasingly difficult to answer. But if you fail to reach a consensus by the end of the exam, you lose 300 class points, which is extremely detrimental, especially to Class D. Of course, disagreements arrive, but if it's for the benefit of the class, if it's for the benefit of the majority, then most will swallow the hard pill. Until the 5th question arrived. Expel someone now or gain 100 class points. A question that can literally change everything. If the goal is to reach Class A, the obvious answer for many is to keep your classmates. The class points can come later. But what if that isn't your goal? What if your goal is to simply watch others turn against one another, watch the class burn, and defeat your opponents? Well, in that case, the Unanimous Voting Arc shows who truly has the power. It's not the majority who rules, but the silent minority. And with the last question, proposing expulsion, it was Kushida who had all the power. From the get-go, Kushida desired to expel both Horikita and Ayane. However, no adequate opportunity truly presented itself until the Unanimous Voting exam reared its ugly head. And because Kushida is constantly hiding behind her mask of this nice, smart, helpful, pretty girl, she could use that to her ultimate advantage. She could continue voting against the grain and watch her class self-destruct before her eyes. She could let all the frustration of her classmates flare, blame would ultimately go to the class leader Horikita, and by simply doing the math, she would propose to expel the traitor, or put herself up on the chopping block, and she would be eliminated. It was an extremely calculated plan, coming from the help of the White Room student Yagami. But something didn't go as planned by Kushida, and that was Ayane. And that's because by laying the groundwork, he was able to turn the tables on her. He took off his mask and forcefully took off hers, and they both revealed their true natures. Kushida was exposed as the traitor, and so naturally, she would be the one to vote off. She exposed many of her classmates' secrets and sought out the destruction for herself. In a sense, it was a win-win situation. You cut out the negativity, the toxicity, and you get 100 class points. But this outcome bothered Horikita. It didn't make sense to her. Perhaps there was someone else who was more deserving of being expelled. Despite her toxic personality, Kushida adds a lot of value to the class. She has excellent communication skills. She's self-aware, smart, athletic, pretty, and she has a great social status among the other classes and years. And her exposure in the class is primarily an internal issue. If you look at the past, there's more value added than lost. Despite the fact that she wanted to eliminate Horikita and Ayane, despite the fact that she aired out the dirty laundry of her classmates, Horikita still voted in favor of keeping Kushida. In the moment, Ayane did not agree with Horikita, but he believed in her and the progress of her development thus far, and he wanted to witness her growth in the face of this adversity. And so by a process of elimination, and doing things that no one else would ever dare to do, he incited to vote out the student who added the least value to the class, and that was his dear friend, Airi. And so this outcome left a mixed bag of turmoil. Ai and Koji had to witness as his friend group deteriorated before his eyes, Horikita's faith as a leader was put in jeopardy, and the overall tension in the class was out of balance. Not to mention, Kushida started rejecting everyone and anyone, while Haruka, who was Airi's best friend, took out her frustration on Horikita and Ai and Koji. But it takes time for things to truly set in stone. Things change, we rearrange, and we grow. And because Horikita kept her faith in Kushida, things developed. And the outcome of that development was seen in Year 2, Volume 7, during the cultural festival. As the class is running a maid cafe, we get to see a side of students that we've never seen before. And Chabashira sensei as a maid, I mean, come on. And Kushida, who's always putting on a persona, shines in this light. She's pretty, she's sweet, she's charming, she's smart. She can multitask and do everything, and in that regard, she was a fan favorite. Not to mention that she continues to crush it on the midterms. From the outside looking in, Kushida is in a class of her own, and even Ai and Koji remarks at just how great she is. Meanwhile, we have Airi, and the real reason Ai and Koji decided to vote her for expulsion. Prior to arriving at the Tokyo Advanced Nurturing High School, Airi did gravware modeling. Entering the school, she can no longer do that, and her career died out. Naturally, she hid in her shell, never revealing this side to anyone but Ai and Koji. Ai and Koji believes that failure can bring about the best in the person. Even in the White Room, if someone failed and dropped out, that doesn't mean their life ended. It actually gave them a chance to start anew in a new world and succeed elsewhere. And Airi took on that opportunity. Despite Haruka's misgivings, Airi was stronger than she let on, and knew that Haruka would seek out revenge in her name. And although there were loose strings with Haruka and Akito, Ai and Koji was able to talk them out of taking revenge. Airi was able to move forward on a new path, and her expulsion helped her break out of her shell, go to the career that she excelled at, and begin becoming a success in her own right. And it's funny, because Ai and Koji didn't see this outcome until Horikita chose not to waver on keeping Kushida. It was something even he dismissed, the perfect human, and that's because there was no logic to this decision. It was instinct. But at the end of it, even Ai and Koji had to admit that Horikita made the right decision.